Let's dive right into today's explainer, because we are unpacking a seriously dark, philosophical fable that forces us to look right at the very fabric of the modern human condition. We're talking about a gripping narrative involving a High Inquisitor, a stargazer, and a brutal morality test designed to just shatter illusions. So get ready. This isn't your typical story of heroes and villains. It's actually a pretty intense mirror held up to how we construct meaning in our own lives.
Our narrative arc kicks off high above a town square. Up there, the High Inquisitor is overseeing the total unraveling of empires, watching with complete, cold detachment. He summons this figure, a dark knight, forged from the solid rock of ancient conviction. And as this knight steps forward, his heavy footsteps literally echo the terrifying silence of the void. The Inquisitor sends him down into the square, setting the stage for a profound confrontation.
But before we follow that knight down into the square, we have to stop and ask ourselves a pretty uncomfortable question. Is our own modern, polite society just masking a silent decay right beneath the surface? Because, this fable isn't just about some fictional stargazer. It's asking us if our beautifully curated, well-organized lives are actually built on genuine substance, or if they're really just a shell hiding an inner rot.
So let's look at the first part of this, the Dark Knight's challenge, and how this physical confrontation begins.
The contrast between these two figures is absolutely stark. On one side, you have the Dark Knight. He's forged in blood and iron, carrying this ancient conviction. He represents genuine substance and a cold, nihilistic stillness. Then, on the other side, you have the Stargazer. He represents modern humanity, completely defined by hollow performance, psychic decay, and the brilliant but ultimately meaningless flares of the town square.
Now, it's crucial to understand that the Inquisitor didn't summon this knight to measure virtue. In this age, the Inquisitor believes virtue is nothing more than a performance anyway. Instead, the knight is deployed as an unwelcome guest. His whole purpose is to act as a blade, one that's specifically designed to pierce a life built entirely on fake direction, and to rapidly accelerate the psychic decay of the Stargazer's outward structure.
Which brings us right into the core of the morality test, staring directly into the void.
Okay, so the void here isn't just some abstract philosophical concept. It's the raw, paralyzing fear of meaninglessness that's waiting right beneath a well-organized life. It's that terrifying realization that beneath all your bustling day-to-day activity, there's absolutely nothing holding it up.
By offering a choice between a false sense of purpose and this paralyzing fear, the knight aggressively strips away the Stargazer's facade of order. It's a brutal confrontation. It's meant to just dig right past all the pleasantries until only the inner rot is left exposed to the light.
Let's view this from the Stargazer's perspective, down in the square, looking at what we call his gilded scaffold.
To the Inquisitor, the Stargazer's highly structured life is nothing more than virtue signaling built over a sinkhole. It's a performance for an audience of none. Basically, it's a hollow masterpiece of modern humanity, whose only real function is to hide the emptiness right below his feet. And with every heavy footstep, the knight proves that the Stargazer's entire existence is merely a gilded scaffold that's on the verge of total collapse. As the armored figure steps forward, absorbing all those brilliant flares of the square, he forces the Stargazer to actually hear the groaning of the earth beneath his fragile little construction.
That leads us into a really fascinating and dark part of the philosophy, the trap of hope. Offer him no hope. Those are the Inquisitor's explicit orders. You see, in this grim logic, the Inquisitor views hope as the most dangerous of all fake directions used to mask the void. Because hope just allows you to keep building on a rotting foundation, delaying the inevitable collapse.
For modern man to embrace the raw truth of his own decay, he has to recognize that his life is just stagnant time and dust. As the knight walks right through this towering outward structure, he proves that this whole idea of a structured, meaningful life is just an illusion masking pure existential emptiness.
Now we reach a total linguistic collapse, the idea of suffering as a borrowed costume.
Here we get a really fascinating philological breakdown of the fable. The Inquisitor explains that a word like morality has essentially become a linguistic ghost haunting a shadowless man. Our language has collapsed. The words we use no longer point to any genuine substance. They're just ghosts of a history buried under polite conversation. So the Dark Knight's confrontation reveals that even the Stargazer's internal suffering is inherently inauthentic. It's just burying repressed substance under that polite conversation. The Inquisitor's cold logic dictates that the only honest ground a man can possibly find is recognizing that his very suffering is a borrowed costume. He isn't actually feeling anything real. He's just playing the role of someone who feels.
And man, this forces us to confront our own reality, right? Are our modern struggles genuine, or are they just a masterpiece of modern humanity designed to hide the emptiness? If our suffering and our morality are just borrowed costumes we throw on to avoid looking at the void, then what is actually real?
Well, let's get into the climax of this total unraveling, the Great Noon Reveal.
The final test arrives. The sun ascends to its zenith, bringing this too honest light. And in that light, only the solid rock of the night remains, while the stargazer's facade heavily fluctuates. The Great Noon is this moment of absolute, inescapable clarity, where the lies we tell ourselves can no longer cast a shadow.
The Inquisitor is watching closely to see what the Stargazer will do. Will he cling to his fake direction and those brilliant flares, or will he finally stand upon his own corruption to find honest ground? Will he panic, or will he accept the silent rot and try to salvage whatever tiny piece of genuine substance might actually be left inside him?
As the repressed shadow of the night merges with the inner rot of the city streets, the Stargazer is left to face the Great Noon completely alone. The illusion of his structured life is completely gone. The scaffold collapses, and this brutal morality test reaches its devastating conclusion.
So, this explainer leaves us with the Inquisitor's terrifying final thought, asking us what remains when our own borrowed costumes are finally stripped away. When the honest light of your own Great Noon arrives, and the polite conversation fades, what will you be standing on? Genuine substance, or just the ruins of a collapsed scaffold?